I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, Ralph Tycho, in Alameda, California, where the sun always seems to be shining these days. And sometimes I'm bi-coastal, sometimes I'm between coasts. So I'm in Alameda. My guest is in Cincinnati, across the street from the Reds Hall of Fame, author Charlie Vascellaro. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm well, Ralph. How about yourself?
Oh, welcome to Comfortably Zoned. This is your first time, and I hope you're as comfortably zoned as I am on a beautiful Wednesday. Yeah, cool. You attended the All-Star game yesterday.
I did indeed.
Ah, terrific. What were your impressions as a Met fan? As a fellow Met fan, I want to hear about Buddy DeGrom's performance, and I want to hear about your visit to Cincinnati and Pete Rose's just the reception he got yesterday was just unbelievable, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit too.
Yes,
so
I'll tell you.
Lead us in.
Yeah. Because that was so tremendous, let's just talk about DeGrom and get that out of the way first, because he was fantastic. And I would have loved to have seen him pitch another inning. You know, I know they were trying to get everybody in the game, but when a guy's on a roll like that, you know, the first thing I think of is Carl Hubble, right? Don't you want to beat Carl Hubble's All-Star game record? I'm like, let this guy go. He's going to keep striking guys out, but that's not the way they do it anymore. I think
Carl Hubble struck out literally Murderer's Row and with a little added to it, if I remember correctly.
Ruth, Gehrig, Fox, Simmons, Cronin.
Not bad.
Not bad. 5 Hall of Famers in a row. Yeah.
Yes,
he was hitting every pitch. Every pitch was 96, 97. He was really gassing them too. So it was real pretty to watch.
Yeah, let's pay homage a little bit to the fantastic young Met pitching staff that has nothing but a future for it. It's unbelievable. With DeGrom, Syndergaard, Harvey, it's just terrific.
Hopefully Matt.
Yeah,
I'm a little worried about him, but hopefully Matt.
I know. What is this thing with oblique muscle pulls? An injury we hadn't ever had when I was growing up as a kid in the 50s, 60s. Guys get hurt, but that wasn't an injury that was talked about. I wonder what is causing all this. It's undue strain, training. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I was unaware of his history. He had a little bit of an injury history. And he's older than I thought he was, too. And I think that one of the problems, and you hear them talk about this every now and then, is that the guys are throwing a lot of pitches at a younger age. And so they're older when they show up in the big leagues, even though they seem like they're young. They've been throwing too long already.
Right, absolutely. And some of them are abused in college and even back in high school nowadays where, you know, a coach will get on a horse and just ride that thing until it's over. And
you know, there was so much excitement about his first start, and I think there was already a little warning sign in that first start that he felt a little stiffness. But you know, you wanted to, like you said, ride that wave, and you know, his second start was pretty good too, but he probably shouldn't have made it.
Right. Hey, let's talk about Pete Rose before you tell me about your book. And you got a book that you co-wrote with Kevin O'Malley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he did the illustrations.
And I did the writing. It's interesting to me because it's for kids, and it's baseball for kids, and that's a great combination because if this sport is going to continue to survive, if not flourish, we've got to get the youth of America back into it a little bit. And I really commend you for thinking of that and thinking of the future of our great game.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, I would like for the kids to start stockpiling their memories as quickly as they can, because I think that's what you go back to in your older years when you're a fan a little bit later. You're always have these reference points, and I know you said something to me before we were even on the air about Pete Rose and Bud Harrelson and the fight in 1973. Well, I was a 9-year-old kid, and I was at that game. And, when I think about Pete Rose, any discussion I ever have about Pete Rose, I usually reference that because I was there. So, I was a Mets fan. He beat up our guy, and we booed him relentlessly for the rest of his career in New York. And, I remember Yogi and Cleon Jones and Tom Seaver had to go out to the outfield and tell everybody to stop throwing garbage at Pete Rose or we were going to have to forfeit a game that we were leading 9-2 at the time. So
that's right. They were going to forfeit that game. They could not get the fans to stop throwing garbage. And
even the next day,
it's great memories. And if you want to talk about 73, has to be my favorite all-time Met team ever.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, they were so far down and so injury-ridden at the beginning of the year. And plus they had guys going in and out of the reserves. 2 or 3 times.
When you got George, I think George Theodore played most of his his brief career. I think most of it took place during the 73 season, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely,
he crashed Don Hahn, you remember that. And, then you got to bring in a guy like Dave Schneck to play center field. You got a lot of trivia questions on that 73 team, that's for sure.
Well, they weren't the deepest team at all, but they did have Cleon, they had AG, they had Harrelson and Boswell. It wasn't Boswell by then. It was Felix Mian.
Boswell was there. Felix Mian and Boswell were platooning. They were both there. And Boswell was a lot as a pinch hitter that year. And a guy named Jim Beauchamp was also another guy that came off the bench to pinch hit back then.
Oh, yeah. Rich Childs and Jerry Grote was solid.
Grote was my all-time favorite. Grote is my favorite player of all time.
Well, he's right up there with mine. He was very solid. I heard Johnny Bench say once that if Jerry Grote played on that Cincinnati Red team that you're standing across from the Hall of Fame honoring as we speak, that Johnny Bench would be at third base.
I am familiar with that quote, and I believe it to be completely true.
I do too. Grote had a terrific arm, and Grote had some intangibles on that team with that pitching staff. He was one tough son of a bitch, and he would. Yeah,
I think they were afraid of crossing him. So I think every pitcher on the staff was afraid of crossing Grote. They're afraid that he might snap at him. He's an old cow puncher, and he was hard as nails. He got injured a lot, but he was still. That was mostly because of his own, unyielding toughness. He was one of the last catchers to ever put a helmet on. Grote wore the regular hat turned backwards on under his mask. That's the way he played.
Didn't realize that, but that doesn't surprise me at all. He was one tough guy, and not only on 73, he was there in 69. That was pretty much Grote was the first really good catcher the Mets ever had that could catch and give you some bat. And as an underrated guy, as a reserve, I don't think he was there in 73. I think it was Hodges there in 73 backing up Grote, if I'm not mistaken. But Duffy Dyer did a terrific job in 1969.
Yeah. I think both of them were there in 73. I think Hodges was just getting in and Dyer was just going out. But I think there's a little overlap with those two guys as Grote's backup, if I'm not mistaken. But I think I'm right because I lived and died with Grote, and when he wasn't in the lineup, I used to get mad because those other guys were in.
Okay. Tell me about the first Met game you ever went to as a kid.
The first Met game I ever went to was the Mets and the Expos in 1972. And so I was born in 64. I would have been 8. And it was the same uncle that took me to that Rose Harrelson game in the playoffs. So I got started at 8. I was living in Long Island already, but I was traveling back and forth. I had family in Queens. And, I remember that coming out of the tunnel moment that we all remember. First time you come out of the tunnel and you see that expanse of green out in front of you. And there's nothing that.
Mine was at the Polo Grounds back in 1951, so that dates me a little bit. But hey, what the hell? I'm old and not elderly for the moment. So I enjoy my memories, and yes, that expanse of green, and that leads me to ask about your book. Is it just coming out? Has it been out? And where?
It is just coming out.
And it's called At the Ballpark. That's why it leads into it.
Yes, it's called At the Ballpark. And what it is, it's a children's book. It's illustrated. And it is designed to assist in young people through the process of being at a game. There's information in there about how you got to the ballpark, where you're sitting. Every aspect is covered from the start to the end of your experience at the ballpark that day. And we also ask the kids to kind of participate. There's some note sections where you got to write things down, write down the outfield dimensions on the wall at the ballpark that you're at, and make those type of observations. How old is the ballpark you're at? What's the name of the place? Who's it named after? Things like that. And then we get into the explanatory parts of the game, the position numbers and the rudimentary elements of keeping score, things like that. And, by the time they get to the back pages of the book, we start talking about relief pitching, pinch hitters, what happens during those crucial last 3 innings of a game. So it's a 64-page book. It's available right now on our Facebook page, which is called At the Ballpark. The Facebook page called At the Ballpark. It's very easy to find. And we're hoping to start placing it in ballpark. I was out here in Cincinnati this week, and I visited the minor league ballparks and met with some team owners and executives about trying to get our book in their gift shops or used as a sponsored giveaway. And so right now,
that is a great idea.
Thanks. Yeah, we want to put it right in the kid's hands, so they got no choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. What are some of I'm big into minor league ball. I was the Topps baseball card representative covering minor league ball in the 80s and the 90s, and I really fell in love with it to the point where I'd rather see a minor league game than a big league game, all things being equal. So what are some of the places that you visited in the Cincinnati area that you enjoyed minor league ball?
Well, I used the occasion of this All-Star game in Cincinnati to visit one of my favorite ballparks right down the road, which is Fifth Third Field in Dayton, Ohio. The Dayton Dragons, which is a single-A affiliate of the Reds, Midwest League, and they have the unique distinction of selling out every game in their history. They built that ballpark in 2000, and it's been such a wild success that you have trouble getting a ticket. They've been sold. It's a Guinness Book of World Records record. They broke a record for all professional sports franchises for consecutive sellouts.
Wow.
Yeah.
You want to call out who you spoke to, who's in charge of all this, who's the general manager, and what they have going?
I spoke with the owner of the team, a guy named Greg Rosenbaum, who I met at a spring training game earlier in the year out in Arizona. And we just took up we were obviously like-minded people. We're sitting together at a ballpark in March and started chatting. And he didn't know anything about me, and I didn't know anything about him, but we became fast friends. And then I started to realize that maybe this was a guy who'd be interested, So, but that's the best baseball. In baseball, you're never more. They talk about the 6 degrees of separation. I think in baseball, it's really just one. Right. If you're a baseball fan, you got a baseball fan who's one step away from the commissioner.
Absolutely. Or they think they are, or they should be the commissioner, or
well, that's me too.
Right? Isn't it trippy how you could run into a stranger at the ballpark and just sit there and social economic woes don't get in the way. Prejudice, black, white, green, yellow, who the fuck is? Who do you root for?
Party affiliation, anything. Yes, completely.
Right.
And it's funny, we had scattered tickets. I was with an old friend here at the ballpark. I was with a friend of mine from high school and her family. and I sat next to her husband, and her kids were sitting with her, but we had scattered tickets. We didn't have tickets all together, and we weren't sure who'd be sitting with who until the last minute. And then there was one ticket that was by itself. There were 2 over here. There were 3 over there. And when we started to talk about who's going to be sitting with who, so it doesn't matter. We'll all be sitting with somebody because somebody's going to be sitting next to you.
Right, and you'll have the same memories, and you'll be able to go home and talk about the same experience. And, yeah, very cool. Is this your first All-Star game?
The last time I went to an All-Star game was 1989, and it was Bo Jackson's big show out in Anaheim, if you recall.
Oh,
and
right.
I'll be in Anaheim next week. I'm speaking at the Baseball Reliquary Shrine of the Eternal ceremony. So I'm going to return back to that. Would you tell me and my audience what that represents, what that organization is? The Baseball Reliquary is a fantastic cultural institution, and it exists mostly between your ears. For a while, there was no building. It was just an idea, and it's founded by a guy named Terry Cannon. He's out there in Pasadena, and that's where this is happening. What they do is they honor people, not just players, and people who are associated with baseball and had some kind of social or cultural impact on the game. So it's a wide variety of honorees. For example, this year, they're honoring Cy Berger, the founder of Topps Cards. I'm sure you're familiar with Cy. He died.
Certainly was. He was
wonderful guy.
Passed away. He was a terrific boss. He gave me 16 paid-for vacation jobs. I'd drive around Oregon and Washington State and in California and sometimes the Midwest League and go to all these places. And it was because of Cy, and rest in peace, Brother Cy.
We will be talking about him. The ceremony is on Sunday next week, so it's less than a week away. But he'll be one of the guys being honored. Glenn Burke, who became, reluctantly so, but the first openly gay baseball player, played for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the late 70s and with the Oakland A's a little bit later. He's not around anymore, but we're going to honor him just the same. And they do different awards for people who wrote books. They do a Hilda Chester Award for the greatest fans. And one of my good friends, Gary Siratkowski, wrote a fantastic book called The League of Outsider Baseball. And this is also an illustrated book, which he did the drawings and the writing. He deals with obscure players or obscure facts about well-known players. And they're honoring him for his great achievement. It really is kind of a culmination of things for Gary. He started a baseball card set called the Infinite Baseball Card Set, which turned into this book and got published by Simon & Schuster, and he's on a roll right now. And I saw him here in Cincinnati. He's from Cincinnati, but we'll both be out in California for the Reliquary ceremony next week. Are you still there, Ralph?
Yes.
I'm not picking up your audio.
Okay, let me walk this way a little bit, Glenn. Can you hear me now? Okay, can you hear me now?
I can barely hear you, but I hear you a little bit.
All right, now can you hear me?
Oh, now you're full, loud and clear now. Yeah.
Beautiful. I just wanted to make reference to the fact that Glenn Burke gave Dusty Baker the first known high five. I think that's
yes.
And
that's a contribution. Yeah.
That he would have had much more of a contribution. Glenn Burke was a damn good ball player, and he was dissed by Tommy LaSorda because of his homophobia, and the fact that Glenn at the time he was with the Dodgers just happened to be having an affair with Tommy's son. So
Billy Martin was also kind of hostile towards Glenn Burke too, and those were his two managers. These two, very successful, intelligent, otherwise, guys who.
Well, let's just say they were successful. Let's not add to it. Let's not.
I agree.
Let's not throw.
No, I mean,
let's not throw any IQ points at either of them.
You're right. It's horrible behavior. It's abhorrent. So but it did derail that guy's career ridiculously.
It's a disgrace on humanity, actually. And had he been playing in an era where gay marriage is the law, where we would become a tolerant society, and hopefully we've evolved a little bit from Tommy LaSorda and Billy Martin kind of making.
Yeah. I would hope that there's somebody out there who's not afraid to admit it, these days, this day and age, because undoubtedly the numbers would dictate that there is someone, or more than one, and, you'd like to think that we could live in a world that's comfortable enough to handle that.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Billy Bean is the one with the not Billy Bean, the general manager of the A's. He's come out and
I'm losing you a little bit again, Ralph.
Okay, well, who is
there? I think I hear you now.
All right. I just want to say Billy Bean is one person who did come out and wrote about it and whatever. But listen, Charlie, you're a terrific guest. I hope you have fun doing this, and I hope you'll come back to Comfortably Zoned really soon.
Well, thank you very much. It has been my pleasure talking with you, and I guess we could catch up on the Pete Rose part of it later. We skipped over that, but.
Oh well, you want to talk a little bit more about Pete Rose?
I'll give you my 2 cents worth. All
right. I have. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it really was, in a lot of ways, the highlight of the game. Now, you got the game itself, but you had all this fanfare in the wonderful city of Cincinnati, the historic baseball town that it is. And here's, the, what do you want to call, the prodigal son of Cincinnati. I'm standing on a street called Pete Rose Way right now. And, he comes back. He's still, caught in this, struggle to get reinstated. I think it's probably at this point maybe a ghost he should give up. But it was still a very emotional moment when he went out there to join his old teammates. And you see Joe Morgan with a cane. He's got a bad hip. He's limping out there. And, Johnny Bench doesn't quite look like Johnny Bench. Barry Larkin still looks like a kid. But it made everybody in the place feel a little mortal watching this unfold. And he looked, relatively confused. The fans gave him a rousing ovation. And he had a half a smile and half a, he didn't know if he was happy or sad, and I don't know how I felt. I think a lot of people are discouraged and disappointed in Pete. I wouldn't have been surprised if people booed. And some people, I think, I was talking to a lifelong fan who really had decided that he's not a fan anymore. But when he came out there and this happened, whatever feelings you had, you almost had to cry. It was just this kind of tragic and horrible thing. And, I hope that somehow he's able to reconcile himself with it. I think it's time for him to stop looking to be reinstated and to understand his place. I think he could be of great service to the game by serving as an example and telling people, don't be like me. Don't do what I did. This could be how he finishes up his time in the game by being that guy. He's off to the side. I'll say he's also stood to gain from his notorious position. I think that this has become a thing about him. The supporters rally. He shows up at these events. He's kind of very high profile. I think if he got in the Hall of Fame, we wouldn't be talking about him near as much as we are now. So, he's got that. It's a dual-edged sword. He can embrace his notoriety. He can use that as an example of what not to do, and that could be that could be his contribution to the game from here on in.
Well, if he showed any honest repentance, the United States of America, American people would have taken him back years ago. I mean, there are so many degenerate fuckers out there that did so much worse than Pete Rose that you couldn't even imagine. They do more than Pete Rose did before 9 o'clock in the morning. We're eating Wheaties and they're out there fucking over the world. And you can include Bonds and all those people.
Yeah, the poor guy can't get out of his own way sometimes.
Right. Right. And I will say this, that it's gambling is an illness. I mean, it's not something he's proud of. It's not something he would have wished upon himself. So if we look at it that way, the man is ill. We have to finally get to the point, disassociate that crap from his records. It's pretty hard to have a Hall of Fame. And if somebody doesn't want, you could just put it on his plaque. You could just say, listen, this guy did some bad things, and he was kept out for a long time, and he was sick. And I think if you just look at it that way, it would encourage people who are sick not to hide behind their ego, be it drugs or be it gambling or be it sexual abuse or whatever it has, or whatever it is. Not sexual abuse so much, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about there, but sexual addiction, this kind. You make a case for everything is addicting, and in this world, people have to look for an escape. Though at best, we got mortality hitting us in the face. So, and at worst, we got life as itself on Earth for a lot of folks. Cut each other some slack. What the hell? Yeah. Life's too short, and I'm sure if Joe, say it ain't so, Joe, could talk to us, he'd say the same thing. He'd say, "Hey, look, made a mistake, didn't make a mistake. What's the difference?" And have a museum. It's a museum. It's not the Trinity. It's not Jerusalem, for Christ's sake. What should be, let people in with the proviso that people know about their past. I'd certainly like to know about some of the things that brought Louis Tiant, for instance, to the majors, so people had to go through escaping countries and this, that, and the other thing. So there you go. That's my rant for the day.
Well, Ralph, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
It has. I'm going to implore you, the way I close the shows, I implore my guests and all the listening audience, 12 of you out there somewhere, to keep your dreams wet and your humor dry. Keep your children away from military recruiting stations. It's imperative that you do that. It'll mess up your life. We got an economic draft going on. It's been going on for a long time. You don't want your child as fodder, and you don't want your child in an organization whose job it is to kill innocent people, and the rest is an offshoot. If you can get some oil, that'd be great. And also, keep your children off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. It's always a good idea.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? You can't go wrong.
I certainly do.
The one apple doesn't ruin the whole bunch and all that stuff. 380,000 do. So, and it's been in all the papers. And don't go suing because you left your kid for child care, and they frolicked.
Yeah.
Keep it going, and also keep on keeping on. It's very important. Hey, thank you, Charlie. You're terrific.
Thank you,
Come back, I hope. See you soon.
You bet. Bye.